Breathe now, feel the cool air sliding across your nostrils, settling into the warm cavern of your chest, rising and falling like a tide that knows no name. Your shoulders soften, gravity cradling the weight you carry without question. Here, in this moment, the body speaks before thought intrudes. Notice the pulse beneath your wrist, a quiet drum insisting on life. Yet even as you rest in this rhythm, a whisper stirs. Who is the one noticing? A child once believed the answer lay in a mirror's reflection, in the smile practiced for parents, in the posture straightened for teachers. The paradox arrives uninvited. You are both the observer and the observed, the mask and the face beneath, forever entangled. Long ago, a boy knelt in the garden's damp earth, fingers stained green from crushing mint leaves. Their sharp scent exploded, mingling with sun-warmed soil. He pressed the leaves to his nose, inhaling until his lungs burned, believing this fragrance could anchor him forever. His mother called from the porch, voice honeyed yet edged with expectation. He stood, wiped his hands on corduroy pants, and stepped into the role of the good son. That afternoon, the mint's perfume faded, replaced by the metallic taste of obedience. Years later, the memory returns not as nostalgia but as a faint ache behind the ribs, a reminder that something essential was buried beneath the first performance. Adaptation begins innocently. A girl twirls in a sundress the color of ripe peaches, laughter spilling like coins from a torn pocket. Her father claps, eyes shining with pride that feels like sunlight on skin. She learns the spin earns love, the stillness earns silence. So she spins faster, dress flaring, heart racing to match the applause. Inside, a quieter voice wonders why stillness feels like drowning. She ignores it, perfecting the twirl until the dress wears thin at the hem and the applause becomes a habit she cannot quit. The body remembers what the mind denies. Tightness in the throat, a flutter beneath the sternum whenever authenticity threatens to surface. Mask building crystallizes in adolescence. A teenager stands before a locker room mirror, flexing biceps that refuse to swell. Classmates jeer, their laughter sharp as broken glass. He laughs too, louder, crafting a shield of bravado. Each punch on the shoulder, each shouted insult, becomes mortar for the wall he erects. By night, alone, he traces the bruises blooming purple across his skin, wondering why the pain feels truer than the jokes. The mask hardens, polished to a sheen that reflects only what others wish to see. Inside, the boy who once collected rocks for their secret colors shrinks, curling inward like a fern at dusk. The constructed self demands constant maintenance. Energy leaks through the cracks of forced smiles, through the clenched jaw held during boardroom battles, through the spine curved in submission to a lover's disapproval. A woman in her 30s schedules her days with military precision. Yoga at dawn, emails by 7, charm offensive by 9. Her reflection approves, sleek and controlled. Yet her hands tremble as she pours coffee, the cup rattling against the saucer like a warning. She attributes the tremor to caffeine, never to the war raging between who she pretends to be and who she is when no one watches. The body keeps the score, etching exhaustion into the hollows beneath her eyes. Subtle fatigue creeps in like fog through an open window. Mornings blur into evenings without landmarks. The man who once bounded up subway stairs now pauses halfway, breath ragged, pretending to check his phone. His suits hang looser, yet the mirror insists he looks sharp. Colleagues praise his reliability. Oblivious to the nights he stares at the ceiling, tracing cracks that resemble maps to nowhere. Sleep offers no refuge. Dreams replay old failures in high definition. He wakes with the taste of rust in his mouth, unsure whether the blood is real or metaphorical. Symptoms intensify. A creative director prides herself on visionary campaigns, yet each new brief feels like pushing boulders uphill. Inspiration arrives stillborn, strangled by the need to impress. She scrolls competitors' portfolios at 2 a.m., heart pounding with envy that tastes like bile. Her therapist suggests mindfulness. She schedules it between spin class and networking cocktails. The body rebels, migraines bloom behind her left eye, a private fireworks display announcing surrender. She swallows pills that dull the pain, but not the question. What happens if the performance stops? Existential dread surfaces in quiet moments. A father tucks his daughter into bed, reading the same story for the 100th night. Her eyelashes flutter against his cheek as she drifts off. In the hallway, he confronts the silence and finds it screaming. The promotion he chased for a decade sits heavy in his pocket, like a stone. He remembers wanting to build tree houses, not spreadsheets. The realization lands somatic, a cavern opening in his chest, cold and vast. He stands frozen, hand on the light switch, afraid to plunge into the dark. Descent begins involuntarily. During a routine jog, the rhythm of footfalls syncs with a deeper pulse. The man's legs carry him past familiar streets into unfamiliar territory. Trees arch overhead, forming a cathedral of green. His breath sinks with wind. For the first time in years, thought quiets. Then unbidden rage surges, hot, ancient, volcanic. He sees every moment he swallowed anger to keep the peace, every compromise that tasted like ash. His fists clench, knuckles whiten. He wants to scream, to shatter the facade with sound. Instead, he runs faster, lungs burning, until he collapses beneath an oak whose roots clutch earth like desperate fingers. Confrontation arrives disguised as memory. The boy in the garden returns, but now the mint leaves rot between his fingers, releasing a sour stench. He understands the fragrance was never the point. The point was the moment before his mother called, when he existed without audience. Shame floods in, thick as molasses, shame for every lie, every posture, every smile stapled over sorrow. Greed follows, not for money but for the purity of that unself-conscious instant. He mourns its loss like a limb severed in childhood. The oak's bark presses into his spine, grounding the torrent. Paradox reveals itself through contrast. The rage and shame do not cancel the love he feels for his daughter. They coexist, braided like light and shadow in a single beam. He touches the tree's rough skin and feels his own roughness, the calluses from gripping illusions too tightly. Integration whispers, the mask is not the enemy, it is a frightened child clutching a blanket. Beneath it, the raw face waits, scarred and luminous. He breathes into the paradox, chest expanding to accommodate both terror and tenderness. Release unfolds in the body first. Shoulders drop as if invisible hands lift decades of armor. The jaw unclenches. Teeth no longer grind nightmares into dust. He walks home slowly, each step deliberate, feeling pavement through thinning soles. At the threshold, he pauses, sensing the house as both cage and sanctuary. Inside, his wife stirs soup, steam curling like incense. He wraps arms around her from behind, not performing affection but inhabiting it. She leans back, surprised by the absence of tension in his frame. They stand wordless, two bodies remembering how to share space. Emptiness arrives not as void, but as spaciousness. Mornings now begin with silence instead of strategy. He sits on the porch, coffee cooling, watching sparrows argue over crumbs. The mind offers its usual scripts, emails, deadlines, self-improvement, but he observes them like clouds crossing a vast sky. Some dissolve, others drift past. The daughter joins him barefoot, curling into his side. She asks why the sky changes color. He answers honestly, because it reflects what's beneath it. She nods, satisfied, and the simplicity pierces him deeper than any philosophy. Expansion integrates the shadow without fanfare. At work, he speaks truths that once lodged in his throat. Colleagues blink, unaccustomed to candor wrapped in calm. Projects shift organically, no longer contorted to fit his persona. Evenings, he sketches treehouse designs on napkins, lines flowing from a hand that no longer trembles. The creative director quits the agency, not in rebellion, but in alignment. She paints murals on abandoned walls, colors bleeding into brick like confessions. Passers-by pause, touched by beauty that asks nothing in return. The woman who scheduled mindfulness now forgets the app entirely. She dances in the kitchen while chopping onions, tears streaming from spice and joy indistinguishable. Her lover notices the shift, how her laughter emerges from the belly, not the script. They make love with lights on, seeing each other's imperfections as topography, not flaws. The teenager who flexed in mirrors now lifts weights for the burn, not the image. He coaches younger boys, teaching them to cry when it hurts, to laugh when it's funny, to exist without audience. Authentic awakening reveals itself in ordinary miracles. The man burns the old suits, fabric curling into ash that smells like closure. He plants mint in the backyard, tending it without nostalgia. When it thrives, he crushes a leaf and inhales, not to recapture childhood, but to meet the present. The scent is sharper now, edged with earth and rain. His daughter watches, learning that growth requires both burying and blooming. Together, they build the treehouse, hammers ringing like bells announcing arrival. Integration completes the circle. The shadow, once exiled, now walks beside him, neither enemy nor pet but companion. Rage transforms into boundaries spoken firmly. Shame becomes humility that bows without groveling. Greed morphs into appetite for depth, not distraction. He meets strangers and sees their masks without judgment, recognizing the universal choreography. Compassion flows effortlessly, a river no longer dammed by self-consciousness. In the garden decades later, an old man kneels where the boy once did. His knees creak, but the earth welcomes him. Mint flourishes wild, spilling over borders he no longer polices. He crushes a leaf between gnarled fingers, inhaling the sharp green fire. The fragrance carries every version of himself, the performing child, the armored adult, the dissolving seeker, the integrated elder. They coexist in this single breath, neither hierarchy nor conflict, simply layers of a life fully inhabited. You listening feel the echo in your own chest. The body knows before the mind assents. Shoulders soften further, breath deepens, pulse steadies. The paradox resolves not through force but through allowance. The mask loosens, not shattered but gently set aside like a coat outgrown. Beneath, the face waits, wrinkled, radiant, undeniably yours. Inhale the mint of this moment. Exhale the need to perform. What remains is not emptiness but presence, vast enough to hold every shadow, every light, every unwritten tomorrow.